All right, dudes and dudettes, we are live again for another watch party. Thank you all for coming. We still have 10 minutes before we're going to, actually, we have 12 minutes before we're going to get going. Just going to turn on all the other networks here. I don't know why that's happening with that. Maybe I'll bring that camera over. Everyone, make sure before we get started here, hit that like button on the stream so we can get more attention to this. That would help us out a lot. Thank you. Have you guys enjoyed the live streams so far, or is this your first night here? Let us know in the comments section. Yeah, let's turn this on. Camera. We'll use that camera. Actually, we could use this camera for, yeah, maybe we'll do this angle for Facebook. Then I can look over at them like this and be all weird. Yeah, I drink so much water, like I just use a what I call a big fuck off mason jar. Yeah, social, or the social fracked brick. I believe you called in last time. I don't think you're blocked, man. I don't know why you think you're blocked, but I don't think you're blocked. I think everyone sees you and it's not blocking your posts. Hope you didn't just get triggered and run. Headset mic, we'll use that. Just setting up the Facebook feed right now. Sure, let's do that. All right. All right, everyone over at Facebook, come over and join us on YouTube. You can see the whole video as we're chatting, and most of the chatting will be happening there. I'm going to put the channel in the description. Join us. Let's see what else. Tobias, already throwing daggers. Is that the one where Jordan Peterson is squirmy and evasive about every answer? Oh, wait, that's all of them. Tobias, throwing daggers. I wonder if we're going to keep those. I wonder if we'll see any weasels out tonight. It's always exciting. Okay, this is my Facebook camera. This is my YouTube camera. If you guys want to join in with the chat and actually see the video that we're going to be watching today, come over and join us on YouTube. I put the address in the description there. And I am drinking out of a gigantic mason jar. I believe this one's from Grandma's house. Thanks for giving me my drinking apparatus, Grandma. I believe borscht came in that. I think I'm going to turn off all my bloody Facebook notifications because they are friggin' annoying during this. And guys, again, remember, please smash that like button in the live stream. It helps more people to see this. Zane Murphy says, "Can people see this?" Yes, people can see this. Yeah, but only users use YouTube chat, so keep it on the down low. Yeah, you are fucking losers, man. AJ Hunt says, "Why was I invited to watch this?" Maybe because you're awesome, And everyone else here is awesome. I am so funny. Okay, we got 7 minutes. Okay, you guys have 7 whole minutes to smash that like button on YouTube, on the YouTube stream. I'm going to find out who didn't, and I will punish you. I will come to your door, bang on it. Snowman D says, I didn't even know about this. Well, where you been? Are you subscribed to the Pangburn YouTube channel? Everyone please subscribe if you're not subscribed yet. No, we're doing a watch party, Snowman, of the event that happened last June. And I haven't had a chance to do a watch party yet, so I'm doing a watch party for all of the past events that I have produced. Yeesh. I had The Office running all day in the background. Michael Scarn. This is not moonshine, I swear. Oh, I got major cracks happening in my chest and my back today. I haven't ran in a couple days. I need to run. Yeah, again, those of you on Facebook, jump over to YouTube on the YouTube stream. Join us in conversation. If it was moonshine and I chugged the rest of that, I would definitely be dead. Are you one of my haters? Are you just trying to kill me? Probably. Hit that like button, please. I'm going to try not to burp into my headset mic, but no promises. So again, we're going to be just continuing the watch party tonight. We are 50 minutes and 51 seconds into night 2 between Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris, and we're going to keep going. And obviously, well, maybe not obvious, Brett Weinstein, the evolutionary theorist, is sitting in the moderator seat for this event. For those of you who aren't up to speed, that's who's sitting in the middle. But you act as though it's moonshine. Oh, ouch. Right in the balls. Oh, and when we do take a break, there will be a chance to call in through Skype if anyone's interested. My Skype ID is above. We've had quite a few callers so far, and it's been great. Basically, the idea is that we have a short exchange, or you can ask a question about something that's going on in the discussion. Tasteless Opinion is back. Uh-oh. Tobias Wade throwing more daggers Jordan's way. We got 3 minutes. Tasteless, yeah. You can call in today. That would be fine. I can't remember it. I remember the name Tasteless Opinion, but I believe you were the guy being a dookie in the chat. I blame society says Sam is a gloomy old duck. I disagree. I don't think he's a gloomy old duck. I think Sam is like, if his animality is like an owl for sure. And Jordan's is like, what is Jordan's animality? Yeah, Tasteless. Invite whoever you want. It's great. Helps the channel. All right, we're going to be starting in 2 minutes. Next time for the live stream, during this opening bit where we're just getting ready, I will play you guys some piano. I actually have my piano right there. And I actually have 3 angles set up in the studio now. So yeah. And Facebook's getting a different view. I'm trying out this other camera for the first time. So yeah. If you're on Facebook, come over and join us on YouTube. Join the conversation, man. Tasteless says, Sam Harris's model of interpretation of reality is flawed. Interpretation of reality? I mean, reality isn't open to interpretation, Tasteless. We can talk about this more if you're going to call in. But the evidence of reality, the evidence that we pull from reality and input into the scientific method is how we know what reality is. And Tasteless says, Pangburn, I gotta say, man, I have a lot of respect for you. You are an entrepreneur. You did something amazing, man. You got some huge balls. Well, as far as the balls are concerned, no. Yeah, thanks for saying that. I really enjoy what I do. I have a lot of ideas. This event that we're going to be watching today, this was one of my bigger ones, huge undertaking, and it went. This particular project between Sam and Jordan went incredibly well. I blame society. Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man. Was that your Jordan Peterson line? Okay, guys, we got to get up to at least 10 likes or I'm not starting. No, I'm going to start, but go over and hit that like button. You can do it. I even shaved my neard today. But it like grows back instantly, so shit. Oh well. Thanks, brother. Really appreciate it. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to, I think this is watch party 5, maybe 6. I think it's 5. That means we've put in like 10 hours of this already. Thank you for all of you that have already been here with us, and thank you for those who have come back. Yep, another burp right into the mic. Oh, we're almost there. Get it up to 10. Okay, there. Finally, we got some likes. Thanks, guys. Keep smashing that button. But here we go. Keep the comments going. Keep the conversation going in the chat. Again, at around the half-hour mark, we'll take a break, and I'll take some calls through Skype. Tasteless says he's going to call in. My Skype ID is above the feed to the video that we're going to be watching. Make sure you guys follow me on Twitter, @thepangburn. Get over there, follow me, agree with me, disagree with me. Don't defame me. Don't lie about me to try to defame me or make me look like a piece of shit, or else you are going to be labeled a fuckweasel and you will be featured on a t-shirt or something. I don't know what I'm going to do with that yet, but there will be a fuckweasel club. Oh, I blame society. I get what you were doing there. Okay. Okay, sweet. Let me know if the volume's okay for you guys. It's probably going to be quiet as fuck because this video, when it was uploaded, the audio was quiet. But here we go. Continuing on.
I would like you each to clarify something. So it sounds to me, Sam, like you are hypothesizing that a rationalist approach will always beat a traditional metaphorical approach with respect to the generation of well-being.
Well, not always, but there's so many obvious downsides to the traditional sectarian dogmatic approach that we should want to get out of the religion business as fast as possible.
Okay, but as fast as possible, but do you mean that it has always been true that we should always have gotten away from it as fast as possible, or do you mean now we should get away from it as fast as possible, but there is a point somewhere in the past where it might have been true that actually the best, the most, the richest path to well-being might have been encoded metaphorically?
Oh, yeah, that's certainly possible. And in fact, you might even say it was likely based on the fact that we have all of these systems still around. Right?
Okay.
So we still have the systems around in part because our, like...
Oh, and we're starting off with an ad right away.
Metaphor, and we...
With
Pay the
features
bill.
like Blue Link with Remote Start
Plug your ears.
and Apple CarPlay.
actually can't help it because half of our brain is
Christ.
oriented towards metaphor. But
Can I get you to clarify something now?
yes.
Okay. So you have argued, and you've actually quite surprised me by doing so, you've argued that the dogmatism is a bug and not a feature. You've argued...
No, it's a bug and a feature.
Okay, it's a bug and a feature. Good. So,
Yes.
But what I thought I heard you say was that the resistance to update
Yes.
was a problem, that effectively it was an obstacle.
Yeah, so is lack of resistance to
Can something be a bug and a feature? If so, give some examples. If not, let us know why not in the comments.
update.
Right, okay,
There's
good.
problems everywhere, man.
Well, there's a tension. Okay.
There is a tension.
There's a
There's
tension.
a terrible tension.
Okay.
Right, well, look at
Well,
it
but-
this way. Look at it this way. Most new ideas are stupid and dangerous.
But most
some of
old
them are
ideas
vital.
are as well. I mean,
But
that's
some of them are vital, right? And so we're screwed both ways. It's like, well, if we stay locked in our current mode of apprehension, all hell's going to break loose. If we generate a whole bunch of new solutions, most of them are going to be wrong and we're going to die. And so what we need to do is, and well, it's a Darwinian claim in some sense, is that despite the fact that most new ideas are stupid and dangerous, a subset of them are so vital that if we don't incorporate them, we're all going to perish. That's the bloody existential condition. And so now, and part of the issue here, and I think that this is, the problem is that, let's take the dogma idea. Okay, so there's the dogma incorporated in the books, but I'm going to throw away the books because the dogma was there before the books. And then the question is, where was the dogma? And the answer was, the dogma was in the cultural practices, and in the agreement that people made with regards to those cultural practices, but it was also part and parcel of the intrapsychic structure that enables us to perceive the world as such. Now, the problem is, and I think this is the central place where we need to flesh out these ideas, is that you cannot view the world without an a priori structure. And that a priori structure has a dogmatic element. And so you can't just say, well, let's get rid of the dogma, because you can't perceive the world without a structure.
It has an uninspected element. I mean, so if you're talking about just perceiving the world, yes, we have perceptual structure that allows for us to perceive the world, and we know that there are failure states, right? So we know, for instance, that we've evolved to perceive, in visual space, based on a literally neurological expectation that light sources will be from above, right? And so we know that we can produce visual illusions based on gaming that expectation, right? But that's not the same thing as a dogma subscribed to by some subset of humanity that is antithetical to another dogma subscribed to by another set of humanity that has nothing to do with underlying biology. That's something that's changeable.
It's not so obvious what
No, but
has
it's
to do with-
changeable in real time based on just conversations like this. Like, we could have, I get emails from people who can point to the paragraph where they lost their faith, right? Where in reading Richard Dawkins or hearing a debate between me and some theologian, where it's just a collision against rationality, which is so useful in every other context, suddenly proves its utility in this context where they think, well, okay, clearly I know the Muslims are wrong about the status of the Quran. Let me take that spirit of criticism in the internal space of my own culture, and what moves? Well, a dogmatic attachment to Christianity has to move by that same standard.
Well,
and it's possible to do that, and that's not a matter of getting into the brain and changing your perceptual apparatus that has...
Well, the distinction between different levels of what would you call it? Structure-related processing in the brain and the relationship to the underlying biology isn't clear. Like, and it isn't clear when that's biological and when it isn't. So, you know, your comments about our a priori perceptual structures notwithstanding, there's no clear line between what constitutes an instantiated, accurate biological perception and something that shades more into a cultural presupposition. So it's a gray area. Now, here, let me ask you a question. So this is one of the things I've been thinking about. So this is designed to point out the I'm not making the claim that the idea that we should ground values in facts is wrong. I'm not going to make that claim, although I think it's way more complicated than we've opened up so far. But I would say is, I think relatively easily demonstrate a situation in which you cannot find the value from the facts. So let's say you own an antique. Okay, it's valuable. And you think, I'm going to take this antique apart and I'm going to find out where the value is. Good luck, man.
Well, it's not valuable in that sense.
Wait a second. So we need to know, so that's right, it's not valuable in that sense, because the value of the antique is a social agreement about its position in a hierarchy. It has nothing to do with the material substrate of the antique.
Well, sure.
Yeah, but not, you can't, it's not just sure.
So is it necessarily its social agreeance of how that object fits into a hierarchy? Or can someone not have something that doesn't typically fit into that hierarchy that they still find incredibly valuable? For instance, a torn off piece of paper because they found this torn off piece of paper when they were young, and that was the time that they saw a crocodile in the woods, so they wanted to keep that memory. Let's see what else they get into here with regards to this.
It's that you've made the claim already that you can derive values from facts. It's like, then what are you willing to accept as a fact?
These are facts about, again, so there are facts about, the facts exist in intersubjective space, right? So if I tell you, well, this glass, this isn't just an ordinary glass, I know it looks just like that one, but this is the glass that Elton John drank from in his last concert here,
yeah,
right?
Right.
So, you know, what do you want to pay me for it, right?
Right.
It could be that, you know, you're just the biggest Elton John fan ever, and it's worth quite a lot to you. Now that would
be worth a whole hell of a lot to me.
It's not value intrinsic to the glass, but it is a
Elton.
Where's the value located?
Well, it's a measure in the change this provokes in your experience, right? Just the idea. I mean, we value ideas as much as anything else, and that's hence the mad work done by religion, right? I mean, because these aren't facts on the ground. These are ideas that rule people's lives. I mean, people spend their whole life afraid of hell.
Okay,
right?
It seems to me that it's easier in some sense, rather than to relate the value of that. And I love the Elton John's glass example. I was going to use Elvis Presley's guitar.
It's here. I will tell it to you.
It's like, where in the guitar is the fact that it's Elvis Presley's guitar?
I can just hear the SJWs right now. Oh, he didn't want to use Elton John because he's gay.
Well, it's nowhere in the guitar. Well, what is it in? Where is it then? And the answer is, it's in the dominance hierarchy of values that's been socially constructed around the guitar. It's located in interpersonal space.
At Wayfair.ca, we think that when the big stuff ships free, it's just better. Cover better, brunch better.
There's points from last night, so that you can hear
okay,
what that
we had a
sounds
jump
like.
for
Now,
some reason in the video here. Sorry.
Good luck, man.
Well, it's not valuable in that sense.
The guitar is,
Sorry about that.
rather than to relate the value of that. And I love the Elton John's glass example. I was going to use Elvis Presley's guitar.
It's here. I will tell it to you.
It's like, where in the guitar is the fact that it's Elvis Presley's guitar? Well, it's nowhere in the guitar. Well, what is it in? Where is it then? And the answer is, it's in the dominance hierarchy of values that's been socially constructed around the guitar. It's located in interpersonal space. And that location, so value is located in interpersonal space. And if you want to say, well, that's also a fact, it's like, okay, but we're starting to stretch
it's a fact
the
about the
dimension.
beliefs and desires and conscious states of all the people involved.
Let's go to chat here for a second. Tobias says, JP's point doesn't negate an objective measure of value, though. His position just proves that the measure has multiple subtle components. That's just a measurement problem. I agree with you, Tobias. I think that's a good summary. One that can be solved with science. Yes, of course. Thank you, Tobias. Road Camelot says values are subjective. Yes, values are a label created by humanity as we describe them. So of course. Jason Noble says agreed upon moral goals can be objective. Yes, true. Tobias Wade, I can subjectively value something to be worth $100. I can value other things as much as my children's lives. Different measurements with different scales still provide actionable data. True. Tasteless Opinion comes back and says, what does it mean for moral values to be objective? I believe he was asking Tobias that. Okay, Tobias, it looks like there's some objections to your claims here. We'll let you address. Again, if you're over on Facebook, jump over to YouTube and join us. The link is in the description. All right.
Okay,
Right.
well,
That's the
fair
only
enough.
place where it exists. That's the only
Fair
place
enough,
where
but-
the idea of Elvis's guitar can show up.
Okay, well, I'm trying to figure out then, you see, because what seems to me to be happening, at least in part, is that we can stretch the domain of what constitutes a fact so that the domain of fact starts to incorporate the domain of values, but we do that with doing some damage to the domain of facts.
No,
Well,
not at all.
hang on, don't just say no. This is
Well,
really,
I'll say more.
This is really complicated because, you see, part of what the postmodernists have done is that they've pushed away the domain of facts entirely, and they say, well, the only thing is that the only thing that actually exists is this domain of intersubjective agreement, and they.
Well, you and I are on the same page with respect to postmodernism.
Right, but you have to give the devil his due as well. They pointed out something, and what they pointed out is that it's not so easy to localize the structure that attributes to facts their value. It's not a simple thing.
Now, wait.
Yes.
You would surely agree that if we had Elvis Presley's guitar, that guitar would have a material impact on people. We could tell them this is Elvis Presley's guitar. Some fraction of them would disbelieve it. Somebody might be able to establish it based on a picture or something like that. And the point is, it would have a value that would alter the behavior of people with respect to that object in a material way.
Yes, it would alter the behavior of the people.
So the
it
value
could
could
also
be manifest in physical space.
Which part of it? The
We
behavior?
could detect it. We could figure out what the value of this guitar is based on some intersection
Sure, we
between...
could take a behaviorist approach and we could see how much work people were willing to do to
But
make
also
contact with the guitar.
we can scan their brains and see what.
Well,
how,
I'm not so sure we can do that.
Well, clearly the brain is involved.
Hypothetically, we can do it, but practically, we're not so good at it. Because the MRI data, generally speaking, is junk.
Well, we can table that.
It's
that
not
will be
like
a
it'll
profoundly
junk.
controversial statement in MRI circles.
Sam is dead right there. MRI technology, the results aren't junk. They're used in, but I think Jordan was speaking about when it's used to try and interpret the pleasure drive. I think that's basically what he's getting at. If someone thinks otherwise, let me know in the comments.
Fair
I
enough.
don't think we need it. We
don't need it, but
we
clearly-
know
Let's go with the
that a
behavioral
market will
idea.
establish the
The
value of the
brain,
guitar.
as yet incompletely understood, is surely involved in the valuing of this object, right? And so if I tell you that this is, and again, we can take it out of intersubjective space because you could be in a value solitude with respect to any given object. So it could just be,
Right.
You could have a sentimental attachment to your watch that's worth exactly $25 because that's what you paid for it, but this is the watch that, this is your first watch or whatever it is, and you wouldn't sell it for any amount of money.
Right.
That's a measure of a behavioral measure of how much you value it. And if I told you, sorry, I borrowed your watch and lost it, what the cascade of negative affect that I see on your face is correlated with something that's happening in your head, and the brain is involved, right? So the totality of that picture
what you're basically stating,
is the
as far as
value.
I can tell, is that there'd be a socio-cultural agreement as to the value of whatever this entity is, and that would find its mirror in the brain. And that's a non-controversial statement, because all socio-cultural phenomena that are experienced find their reflection in the brain. The fact that you can say that that's reflected in the brain, it's like,
right,
yes,
but the
I don't
problem
understand
we continually run into with religion is that you have a domain of so-called sacred values where people who are otherwise rational cease to be rational actors. So this is the reason why Israel and the Israelis and the Palestinians can't negotiate as though their problems could be solved by a real estate transaction is because they have irrational and irreconcilable claims upon land and buildings.
Do you think they're any more irrational than the claim that glass is worth something more?
Well, no, it's like that. It's like that. But I'm saying.
But that's not irrational by your own definition. You just said that was actually constituted a fact.
Well, no, it's a fact about people, right? So there are. This is okay.
Okay.
Should be a little careful here because it gets confusing.
Yeah.
We can make objective claims about subjective experience, right? We use this word objective and subjective in different ways. We use it in epistemological ways and ontological ways. And
give me just 1 sec to make sure I'm on the same page as you.
Well, so I can illustrate by way of example. If I say that that's just your subjective opinion, right? I'm saying that this is an expression of your bias. This is true for you, but it's not true out in the world, right? That's one way I can use the subjective-objective distinction, and that's an epistemological way. Like you're ruled by bias. You're not thinking straight. I don't have to take your opinion seriously. That's subjective. I'm worried about objective facts. But people get confused. They think that objective facts only means the material world and what's really in this glass as a material object. No, we can be much more objective than that. We can make objective claims.
Yeah, Tobias, the I am conscious claim equals objective claim about subjective experience. This is why I would like philosophers and scientists to start using the term I am conscious of what my chemistry allows me to be, or what my nervous system allows me to be. I think we have to be very careful because we know that there are bugs in the brain, and there are ways that the brain can malfunction that doesn't allow us to experience certain things. So that's why I'd like to clean up the language with what we claim about our consciousness, or what we can be conscious of.
About the subjective experience of people like ourselves. I can make an infinite number of objective claims about the experience. This is the example I always use, but I just happen to love it. What was JFK thinking the moment he got shot, right? Now that's it. We don't know, so we'll never get the data, right? So the truth or falseness of what I'm about to say can't be predicated on actually getting access to the data because he's not around and his brain's not around to scan. But you and I both know an infinite number of things he wasn't thinking about. We can make an objective claim about his subjectivity. I know he wasn't thinking, well, I hope Jordan Peterson and Sam Harris work it out on stage that night. Right? And an infinite number of things like that. He was thinking something, he was experiencing something, but we don't know what it is. So when I'm talking about this domain of value, I'm saying that it exists in this landscape of actual and possible conscious experience for human beings and any other system like us that can experience this range of suffering and happiness.
Well, okay, so and partly what I'm trying to do is to actually determine what that structure is.
Well, in our case, it's certainly connected to the evolved structure of our brain.
Yeah, but I want to go way deeper into the brain.
It's augmented by everything else we do.
I want to go way deeper into the idea than it's connected with brain states, because it's definitely connected with brain states. The question is, at least in part, how and what does that mean? And I think that the neuroscience has progressed far enough so that we can do quite a good job of this. And so, but I want to return to one thing, and maybe I'll outline a little bit of this. And when you talked about the Israeli-Palestinian conflict, you said that was irrational. And so, look, fair enough. People have been locked with their hands around each other's necks there for 3,000 years. But there's a problem there. And the problem is that people are looking at the landscape from a contextualized perspective, right? It's not just a piece of land, it's their piece of land. It's like your house or maybe your favorite shirt. It's like, well, you say, well, I have a favorite shirt. It's like, well, there's nothing inherent in the shirt that makes it your favorite. No, it's a subjective judgment. It's like, well, then is that a fact? Well, yes, it's a fact. It's a fact about subjective judgment. It's okay. Well, the Israeli claim on the land and the Palestinian claim on the land is a subjective judgment that's a fact.
Yeah,
it's like, so how is it irrational?
Because it is the true analogy here, the complete analogy is rather like we're about to fight over Elton John's glass.
Stuart Scott says, I want to go way deeper, quoting Jordan, and then he takes that to mean I want to muddy our progress with mysticism. Possibly. Because, I mean, maybe mysticism, but maybe actually trying to get at something objective or something that can be known there. Let's see. Stuart Scott says, the problem with value statements about religious prescriptions is that they are not tied to goals that cannot be demonstrated to be real. Right. The problem with value statements about religious prescriptions is that they are not tied to goals that cannot be demonstrated to be real. Interesting. Andrew Valenta says you are all just Sam fanboys. I don't think so. We usually have a good balance of various supporters of Sam and Jordan so far in these watch parties. Again, you guys can rewatch the ones that we already have recorded. They're on the YouTube channel. Please take a minute to hit the like button on this stream. If you're over on Facebook, come over and join us. Join the conversation on YouTube. Yeah, and at the break, in like, well, we'll probably go another 30 minutes at the break. We will, I will be taking some calls if anyone's interested in calling in through Skype. I think Tasteless is going to call in for sure, and if anyone else is interested, just log on to Skype and add my ID, which you can see just above the video that we're watching here. And I would be happy to have a quick discussion with you. All right, let's keep rolling.
And Elton John was never here, right?
Well,
so I'm not saying so. It clearly still matters to us in our misapprehension of our situation. We still really care, and these are objectively true claims about the level of at which we value things, and hence the impasse.
Well,
but it matters
I think that's counterproductive dismissive. Like you could say, well,
it's really not. When you look at the specific claims, it's really not.
Look, you took the contextual interpretation to its absolute extreme. You said, well, there's multiple reasons why different people who occupy the same piece of land are going to feel about it in different ways.
Sure.
Okay, and
most of those reasons are amenable to some kind of rational compromise.
Well,
I mean, there's actually there's studies on this. I mean, there's studies done by people who I disagree with.
When you say the word rational in that context, you're using it as a black box that contains the concept, proper way of thinking about it. It's like it's not so obvious in most situations what the rational approach is.
Well,
otherwise, life would be very,
I have
very
an obvious
simple.
one. I have an obvious one here, and that's that whatever the Christians and the Muslims and the Jews think they're getting from their attachment to their dogmatic and irreconcilable religious worldviews can be gotten just as well by a deeper understanding of our universal and non-culturally bound capacity for ethical experience, spiritual experience, community building, and we can touch that space.
What's that grounded in?
We can touch that space without. Because
fine,
it's almost like the status quo is. It's almost like you're content to live in a world, or at least you're content not to judge too harshly a world where fans of rival soccer teams or baseball teams regularly kill one another, over their fandom, right? Like what if that were the status quo? It's like it's been this way for thousands of years. There must be a reason for it. Like,
Look,
people really like sports.
I'm not trying to justify the Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
No, but
I'm saying that
we
casual
shouldn't be too
attempts
quick to judge the sanctity of their differences of opinion.
Okay, but wait a minute, Sam. There, you made a claim. Your claim was that if the Christians and the Jews and the Muslims would just stop their stupidity and adopt this universal ethic, then everything would be okay. It's like, okay, what's the basis for the universal ethic? Like that's such.
That's a
non-problem.
No one's going in
it?
search of that. The truth is, I mean, that's an interesting problem for philosophers and for scientists. That's not actually where the rubber meets the road for people living their lives well. I mean, this is analogous to me.
Sure
like
it is. It's associated in your book with the difference between the bad and the good life.
I really care about all of this, and my job as a philosopher, as a moral philosopher in that case, is to make the best case I can for these ideas. But the truth is, I mean, it is analogous to when you get into a debate with a Christian fundamentalist in the States. Very often, this person will pretend to care about cosmology or evolution as though it's the most important thing in the world, as though you can't get out of bed in the morning and figure out how to treat your friends and family well unless you figure out what happened before the Big Bang, right? No one really lives their lives that way, and yet we have convinced ourselves that this is a sensible way of talking about the conflict between religion and science.
So hold on. I think you have arrived at the core of your conflict right here, and I actually hear you both loud and clear. Your point is that if the people faced with the question were to, start with a fresh sheet of paper, look at the Middle East, they could arrive at a compromise that they as individuals might find put them way ahead. It was more profitable than the situation that they are continually finding themselves in.
Yeah.
And that might be the case. On the other hand, the reason that they don't is that historically those who have been outcompeted by those who haven't. So the point is, the universe and the fact that it refuses to solve that conflict is telling us that there is some reason that people who take that prospect seriously are not actually correct in some at least metaphorical way. So in other words, what is it to have a sentimental attachment to some piece of territory somewhere? That sounds completely irrational. On the other hand, that sentimental attachment may result in you continuing for 500 or 1,000 or 2,000 years, whereas if you surrendered it because it was irrational, you might go extinct. Now, should you care that your lineage is going to go extinct? Maybe, arguably not. On the other hand, it's hard to imagine that what you're saying is so thoroughly grounded that it can justify causing people to alter their perspective on value in such a way that it might actually drive them extinct. It's not clear that that's a good
clearly,
thing.
I mean, secularism, we're talking about the fringe here. We're talking about, when you're talking about, in this case, the Israeli settlers and the Palestinian terrorists, right? Like we should all breathe a sigh of relief that kind of passion and attachment to land doesn't characterize most of humanity.
It does if you're trying to defend your house.
So,
but that's
Can I
kind of a
turn
different
that
topic.
back on
Yes.
Jordan? Because I think this is where the crux of it is.
Well,
so if
yes.
we follow the idea that this is actually that the seemingly sentimental and irrational attachment to the piece of land is some sort of meta-rationality, which sounds like your perspective, then we are now confronted with the question of, all right, if it is an evolved kind of meta-rationality that is being manifest in stories that cause people to behave in ways that Sam sees as clearly irrational, then we are stuck with the naturalistic fallacy, which is to say, so for those who don't know, the naturalistic fallacy says that just because something is doesn't mean it ought, right? The fact that selection favors something doesn't make it good. When the Aztecs sacrifice their enemies, it is good for continuing Aztecness, but it may not be good in some absolute moral sense. So here's the question for you.
Yep.
You're arguing for, I think, an evolutionarily very viable explanation for religious belief and dogma, but aren't you stuck with the downside of it, where much of what is encoded in that way may actually be abhorrent morally and consciously?
Absolutely.
Okay, let's get back to chat here. Really interesting stuff. I was just falling into a trance, mesmerized there by what was being discussed. Tasteless Opinion, back for more, says Sam disregards the power of belief. No, I don't think so. I mean, belief is the state of being convinced that a thing is true. You believe that it's true. He he would disregard the power of belief based on faith. That's for sure. Faith would be no good reason to believe a proposition. And Tasteless says, and Peterson is not doing a good job. I disagree. I think they're wrestling with something very, very difficult here. Zeben64 says, if you look at all life, even cells, as intelligent and goal-driven, I would say pleasure-driven. Peterson makes much more sense. Which part? If you can clarify. Stuart Scott says, I suppose Palestine is not a good enough example of people lacking a groundwork for a universal value system. Zeben follows up by saying, new atheists like Dawkins have stolen Darwinian evolution. What? Stolen it? You don't steal Darwinian evolution, the theory of evolution. Anyone can use the proven theory to do some work, to push a materialist objective. Okay, can you qualify that claim, please, Zeben? Stuart Scott says, what? Tobias, thanks for commenting, everyone. So, and remember to please like this stream. It helps it out a lot. Hit that like button. Go over quickly. I know it's annoying. Just hit. Tobias Wade says, so in 500 years, if flat earth and anti-vax movements are still around, can we agree Brett is wrong? In 500 years, if flat earth and anti-vax movements, can you imagine that if we could jump ahead and look forward 500 years, that there still is roughly the same amount of those people as there are today? I don't think that'll be the case. I think those ideas will die, just like the ideas of sacrificing a child to make for a more clear sailing when you're going to be sailing across the ocean. Zeben64 says Weinstein knows Darwin evolution is dead scientifically. What? It's not. Like, what do you mean by dead? Do you mean that there just hasn't been any advancements to it, or what do you mean by that? Tobias says, can we agree Brett is wrong? Richard Dawkins describes this well, with ideas evolving and propagating on their own, independent of host benefit. Yes, I talk to, whenever I get a chance to sit down with Richard and talk to him, I always am talking to him about my pleasure drive theory, and he, I mean, it's essentially building off that idea, in that the host's benefits, I think, are driven. I think the science is clear that they are driven by a pleasure to move forward, to move towards health instead of sickness. And that's why some of these things survive and the others do not. The ones that are better at doing this survive and the others do not. Zeben says, Dawkins is a fool. Sorry, man. I'm an atheist too. Okay. First of all, whether you're an atheist or not has nothing to do with the claim you made. Dawkins is a fool? Come on. Tell us all why you think Dawkins is a fool. One of the best-selling scientific authors of all time, Selfish Gene, God Delusion, what he's done for secularism around the planet. Maybe you think that's a bad thing, but good Christ, man. What he's done for science communication. Stuart Scott says, just substantiate what you said above. Yes. Zeben64 comes back. Darwinian evolution that says all life is random happenstance leads to a materialistic view of philosophy. Darwinian evolution that says all life is random happenstance. What do you mean all life is random happenstance? That's a terrible reading of evolutionary theory. Random mutation and natural selection, these there is some randomness in there with random mutation. But mostly stick with the driving force of natural selection is and needing and adaptation. Yeah, we got ding 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 naturalistic fallacy. Stuart Scott says nope. Okay, we got lots going on here. You guys keep going. Zeben has a lot of claims to qualify here. Let's see what we got going on over on Facebook. Yeah, you guys on Facebook, I see there's some of you viewing. You're probably just hearing, I guess you'd only be hearing my voice, so pop over to YouTube and join in the fun. We are having chats. We're going to be doing, I'm going to be doing some live chatting through Skype with a few viewers soon. And yeah, we're having some fun. Come join us. Let's get back to it. Guys, and please remember to hit that like button on the stream. You can do it. Just it's one click away. Do it. All right.
Okay, so
No doubt about it.
What do we do about
Well,
that?
this is exactly
Do you have
why.
a sorting algorithm?
Yes.
What is
So I'm
it?
trying to get to it.
Okay.
Okay, so this is actually why I asked Sam this question. It wasn't an attack. It's like, okay, so look, people have these belief systems, Christian, Muslim, Jew, we'll say for that, and you're saying abandon those, let's say, and move towards this transcendent rationality. It's like, okay, two problems. It's not so easy to abandon a belief system because you end up in the morally relativist nihilist pit, and that's a problem.
One doesn't have to. And
Well,
many people don't.
people tend to, and so it's a
Well, no,
very
I mean,
major problem.
It's just not. I mean,
No, they don't have to. Look,
That's wait.
Sam,
That's an empirical
right.
claim that we'd
don't-
have to find out whether that's true.
well,
but there's a lot of evidence against that.
Yeah, well, there's plenty of evidence for it too, but it's beside the point to some degree because that isn't something that I want to quibble about. Perhaps there are transitional paths, and sometimes people find a collapse of their faith actually freeing. It's certainly the case that many of the people who are happy about what you're doing have found exactly that in what you've been saying, and more power to you. And so I'm not willing to dispute that. But what you said was, okay, here's these belief systems that are ancient and complex, and we can step outside of them, and there's this transcendent rationality that we could all aspire to that would solve the problems. It's like, okay, what is it?
Well,
what is it exactly?
It is, at a minimum, to value all of the variables that conspire to make the one life we know we have
Okay, you
worth
can't
living.
value all those variables.
Well, no, we're doing it right. We do it every day in how we organize
No, we
ourselves
don't,
in
because
society.
we apply an a priori framework to the variables to reduce them to a tiny subset that we can manage. And it's the nature of that a priori framework that we haven't been able to have a discussion about. We have an a priori framework that narrows our perception to almost nothing. It's built into us. It's partly socially constructed. It has a deep neurological substrate. And we actually understand how it emerges to a large degree. And the thing is that...
But I don't think that's actually our difference. I mean, so the a priori framework operates in many different spaces, which again, we can't necessarily analyze, but it makes it no less true. So if you put your hand on a hot stove, you will immediately feel a very good reason, in fact, an unarguably good reason to remove it, right? And it doesn't require...
Right. So I think they're actually getting at one of my favorite topics, and I think they're talking this a priori state, I believe, is the pleasure drive. I'm going to be preaching pleasure drive until the day I die, I think.
Require moral philosophy to get you there. You don't need to inspect your a priori framework. You just have to feel, holy shit, this is the worst thing I've ever felt, right? And there's so many moments like that in life that we understand sometimes.
What if you're trying to rescue your child from a fire?
Well, exactly. Then you have some other goal, right?
Yes,
that
you
is going
certainly
to
do.
cause you to brave that suffering, right?
Yes.
But again, trying to rescue your child from a fire is pretty close to as the hot stove in not needing to be analyzed, right? The imperative to rescue it becomes harder when you have to rescue someone else's child from a fire, and you're worried about orphaning your child who's standing next to you on the sidewalk, right? Then we get into the domain of moral philosophy, and then you can say, well, how much do each of us owe the children of other people, right? How much should I risk my life and risk orphaning my child to rescue your child? That's when things get interesting in a philosophy seminar, and that's where people begin to hesitate. People begin to, we are biased toward protecting ourselves, protecting our kin, protecting our friends, and only then do we begin to extend the circle. And again, moral, but this is not.
So I would argue that this dilemma that they're talking about, you are making a pleasure analysis on the potential pleasure derived from saving that child, and if that potential pleasure it becomes so low because of what you could very well lose, this is when a lot of people don't go above and beyond to do that. I don't think their pleasure drive allows them to do that.
Not a mystery where we want to go here. We want to extend the circle more and more and build institutions and societies that implement our best selves at our best moments more and more. It makes it more effortless to be good in the world. We want good incentives.
Can we take your example seriously here for a second?
Yeah.
All right, so you are built to be more likely to rescue your own child than someone else's child from a fire. We in society might like for the minimum number of children to die in fires as possible, which gets you to sideline that consideration in favor of, is there a child who's faced with a fire who I might rescue? Religions do exactly this restructuring of values because they say something like, actually, your goodness in risking your own life to save that other child from a fire is observed, and it is.
Man Guy asks, has there ever been any genetic mutation or an evolutionary process which has been seen to increase the information in a genome? Has there ever been any genetic mutation or an evolutionary process which has been seen to increase the information in a genome? I mean, Dawkins must cover that in The Selfish Gene. That's above my pay grade as far as getting deep into the science of genetics. Big C says, why did Penguin stop as a debate host? I have not stopped. There will be many debates and discussions to come. Drew Williams, when you say pleasure drive, as you're referring to the release and uptake of certain neurochemicals, when you say pleasure drive, are you referring to, well, basically what I'm saying is that we don't get out of bed or move or do anything unless our brain is triggered to do that thing because it's operating our system, our nervous system. So what triggers that? The thing that drives that to move towards something, I'm calling the pleasure drive. So this includes what the brain is calculating next to do, because we know through our study of neuroscience and thinking that when we have a thought, we're actually the last to know about it in the sense of be conscious of that thought. The thought's happening to us. We're not dictating what we think next. And as a simple exercise to demonstrate this, try to predict what your next thought will be. And sit there, clear your head, and try really hard to predict what your next thought will be. We can't do that. We don't have the ability to do that. The brain is doing billions of calculations to come up with those thoughts for us. Now I'm saying what's dictating what the next thought will be or what the next idea that will come into our head is the pleasure drive. Is a tautology. No, I didn't say want, Road. It's not a want. It is the survival mechanism to pursue pleasure because because that has the best outcome for us when it comes to wanting to survive. And tasteless, yes, I am. I do believe that everything is predetermined based on because of the laws of nature. I think right at the moment of the Big Bang, I believe the same as Sam Harris about this, that everything is predetermined because of these processes and because things like the pleasure drive are there to have us evolve in a certain way. All right, let's keep going here. We're doing good.
It is calculated, and you will be rewarded for it in some way.
That's one possible benefit of some religions, right?
Good.
And again, so you put that on the balance, but I have a lot to put on the other side of the
Sure
balance.
you do.
Right?
I know you've got
and I know
a
how it's going to
never-ending
swing.
list.
Look,
right.
I want to.
Well, which that's what I'm trying to point out to Jordan here, which he actually acknowledges, which is that he's got a big stack of good things that come from this heuristic. But
Okay, I will ask Tasteless and maybe Zeben64 to answer this question. What is the thing that, based on your definition, or based on your understanding of human biology, what is the thing that creates the thought in our mind? How does that process happen in your understanding of biology? Because we know from the evidence of studying the brain that thoughts are happening to us. So what is creating the thought? Why is the thought constructed in the way that it's constructed? This is a difficult question.
he's also acknowledging
but this is actually this is our core disagreement here, which is however the balance is going to swing. The difference between us here is that I think we read the utility of anything, but in this case, religious thinking, as evidence of you read it as evidence of something, perhaps literally true.
Yes, man guy, you are correct. Pleasure has to do with survival, but once the epitome of pleasure becomes death, then we see suicide. We see animals can get this way. The brain can become depressed, human beings, obviously, but we see animals sometimes walk out to their death for no apparent reason, because death becomes the epitome of the drive. Yeah, and that's my explanation for that thing that I believe happens before. This precedes consciousness in biology.
Ability.
Okay.
Depends on what you mean by literally.
Yeah. So and I view that as a kind of version of either the genetic or naturalistic fallacy. That it's just like, whether that's it's useful now here for us. It doesn't argue that it's the best way of getting those good things. I mean, my argument here is that religion gives people bad reasons to be good where good reasons are available.
Okay,
right?
so
and that's a problem, right?
Right.
And because good reasons scale better than bad reasons. And I think we can even if you take the case where religion is clearly useful in a life-saving, utterly benign way,
Tobias Wade provided an equation here. Yes. Sensation, system 1, impulse. So I'm talking about what that impulse is. I'm giving that impulse some kind of a better description to understand what the impulse is and why this impulse instead of the next.
Virtually all of those cases, I think I can get you there by some other way without the downside. Or if not, that's just one of those cases where, yes, the fiction was more useful than any possible truth.
How do you distinguish a religious system from an a priori perceptual structure?
Well, if you can convert to it or away from it in a single conversation, I would say if it doesn't go very deep.
Well, you're only I would say that for much of that, you're only converting at a very superficial level.
Well, no.
You're converting at the level of conscious apprehension, and most of your cognition is done through unconscious processing.
Well,
so it's superficial.
It's just a fact about us that most of people's religious attachment is born of having it drummed into them by their parents. Right? But the truth is...
no, their parents and their parents' parents and their parents'
yes,
parents'
exactly.
parents.
But if we did the same thing with Batman and Spider-Man, it would have the same effect. Right? Like if you relentlessly told children, right? I mean, I've got 2 little girls who are dressed up like Batgirl right now. They love Batgirl. There's nothing. I don't have to do anything to make them more enthusiastic about superheroes apart from just showing them the pictures of superheroes, right?
Zeben, you said you can say I don't know without throwing out free will. No, wait a sec. Free will is not the default position. Free will, the existence of free will is a claim. So you as the claim maker, if you are going to claim free will exists, you have to substantiate that claim. It doesn't go the other way around. If you're going to adopt the burden of proof, you have to supply the evidence. Tasteless Opinion says, Travis, you can anticipate pleasure. That's another aspect of consciousness. No. I'm talking about the pleasure drive. I'm not talking about pleasure in the sense of feeling pleasure to have sex. This is a different thing. The pleasure drive is a different defined is a different label that I'm using than just pure pleasure that comes after consciousness. So yeah, again, Zeben, if you're going to claim that we have free will, tasteless, free will is not the default position. We are born with no idea in our mind, and free will is an idea. So ideas are learned. It's a claim. You can't. That's the way claims work. So you have to, if you're going to make the claim about free will, you've adopted the burden of proof. Prove that we have free will.
I told them, in addition to look how fun this is to dress up like Batgirl. In addition, you're going to burn in hell for eternity.
By the way, philosophers have been trying to prove free will for a very long time, and then they made the mistake of turning it into the default position for a very long time.
If you lose your emotional attachment to Batgirl, even for a minute, right? Well, then it's going to be Batgirl for the rest of their lives. Especially if the entire culture is doing likewise. And again, this is...
Well, as Brett pointed out already, a bad tool is better than no tool at all. And if Batgirl is the closest approximation to a divine figure that you can conjure up, it beats the hell out of...
Oh, my Lord. Zeben says, I am typing a sentence now. I just proved free will. Do you know how many claims you're making? So you just claim that you dictated that you were going to type that. So you claim to have control of the next thought that pops into your brain. That has been proposed in the past and has been smashed down. You have to prove that free will is there, and this is quite an extraordinary claim to claim that we have control. Now that we understand the neuroscientific aspects of thoughts, if you're going to claim that we can dictate the next thought that's going to pop into your mind, because that's what you're doing right now, it hasn't been demonstrated to be the case. Yes, man, guy. Still, sex. I would say, still, sex can be pleasurable, because it helps. I mean, generally is pleasurable, the sensation, because it helps propagate the species. There is a pleasure. Part of the pleasure is the offspring that come from that, and the offspring bring immense amount of pleasure for various cultural reasons, even in simplistic culture circles.
None at all. And if Batgirl didn't partake of certain archetypal structures, no one would give a damn about Batgirl.
Okay, I'm
so
gonna,
Spider-Man and Batman
I'm gonna spare
play
you.
play a role in the culture.
All right.
Because, look,
Hold
it's
on.
not accidental. It's not accidental that superhero stories have a structure. And to say that, well, Batman and Spider-Man are obvious fictions and we could use them as moral exemplars, which we do.
You're taking the wrong end. You're taking the wrong end of this. I'm not minimizing the power of stories. Right? I'm saying we can understand their power without recourse to believing things we shouldn't believe now in the 21st century.
I still need an answer to the question about what it is that's this transcendental rational structure without an a priori dogma.
I call it the pleasure drive, Jordan. I should be up there. No, I shouldn't.
Don't see it.
Well, it's not. Well, again, we touched on this a little bit last night in that I freely admitted that in every domain of human inquiry, no matter how, the most hard-headed, so mathematics, logic, physics, at some point we have to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps. At some point we make a move that is not self-justifying and is not justified by any other move that's more rudimentary.
Right, that's a statement of faith. That thing
that's a callow use of the term faith.
No,
it's not the
it's
same
a
kind of faith.
precise definition of an axiomatic statement of faith.
My faith that 2 + 2 makes 4.
That's not faith.
Well, no, it is. No, it's my intuition that this is a valid and replicable and generalizable principle, right? You give me
that's
two
not faith either. Your statement that that's a useful claim is a statement of faith, but neither of those two were statements of faith.
No,
those
they're statements of intuition. No, these.
Yeah, I think Sam did a poor job at explaining what he's trying to explain here, because to even use the word faith in the sense of talking about mathematics, which can be replicated by any civilization anywhere, and the answers are gonna be the same whether the labels or language are different. The answers are universal in the cosmos based on our understanding of physics.
These are intuitions. They're intuitions that can run afoul.
Tasteless, I'm really looking forward to it, man.
Of other discoveries and other intuitions, as you know, which.
Well, if mathematical facts are intuitions, then what are we doing with facts?
We've arrived at the point where we have to decide.
This is super important, though.
Super important.
Okay, we don't lose this.
Okay. Yeah.
For 2,000 years, people have been studying geometry and had a very well worked out set of mathematical intuitions with respect to Euclidean space, flat geometry.
Euclidean, quite the word. Clit. I'm immature.
And then some brilliant guy, Riemann might have been the first, said, well, actually, you can curve space. I can bend this triangle, and all of a sudden it has more than 180 degrees, right? That's an intuition that people tuned up pretty quickly, but all of humanity was blind to it for the longest time, right? These are, what I mean by intuition is, it's the thing you're using to understand something that you are not in a position to analyze.
I understand that.
Zeben, I'd like you to answer me one simple question. Is it possible that you are wrong about this claim you're trying to prove, that free will actually exists? Is it possible? And if it is, have you considered the 2,000 years of literature of counter arguments to that basically deal with things that are have been philosophers have tried to present certain things as evidence of free will, and they have just fallen apart. One of the worst arguments out there being that the creator who created everything gave us free will for X amount of reasons. There's just we got to have evidence that the fact that you can say, okay, I just went and jumped out the window and then took off all my clothes and then jumped back in. Don't worry, I'm not going to do that. You don't have to turn off this feed. But that's not evidence of free will just because the thought came into your mind and you did it. There is a pleasure calculation happening there. There's also a calculation of the thought happening to you. You are not dictating the thought. So and we already know that through science. So Zeven then asks, does everything you comprehend depend on free will? No. He says, nah, not possible. They're full of it. Don't listen to them. Is it possible that you're wrong and you say, nah, not possible? I think that's what you're responding to.
But that's not faith of the sort which is, listen, I know the Bible was dictated by the creator of the universe. I know Jesus was his son. I know he rose from the dead. I know he'll be coming back. And 1,000 other propositions.
Yeah, Zeven, you are making many straw man arguments here. So try to stick to the claims that are being made. Try to make the claim and stick to the criticisms of that claim and why they can't fly.
Claims
if it's a statement of faith and it's
implausible.
valuable, if it's a statement of faith and it's in the value domain, how is it derivable from fact?
Okay, so we've arrived at the point where we have to decide whether to go to Q&A or to continue the discussion. While you all are thinking about that, I would like to level a challenge to each of you, and then I will poll the audience and see what they think about Q&A. Okay, so Jordan is arguing to you that you cannot ground the values that would undergird the modality of increasing well-being in anything factual.
Okay, let's take a quick break here. Pee break. I'm going to take a quick pee break. You guys stay on, stay tuned. After I get back, I'll take... I forgot his name, Tasteless Opinion. I will take the call from Tasteless Opinion, and we're going to have a conversation when we get back. Again, I'm Travis Pangburn. Follow me on Twitter, @thepangburn. Come over to the Pangburn page on Facebook. That's where that's where the big conversations go down, and that's @Pangburn Inspire on Facebook. Please like this stream. It really helps more people to see it. We do promote these streams after on YouTube a lot, but please do this small part that you can. Hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, and if you want to support us even further, you can go to patreon.com/Pangburn and become one of our patrons. Would love to have you. Even $1 per creation per month helps us out a lot. We usually release 4 creations per month, so it's about $4 per month, the entry level. And you get some extra access to me. We're going to be starting a lot more programs for our patrons as we get caught up with how things are moving again here. So I'll be back in just a minute, and I'll take some calls. Anyone else that's interested in jumping on the line with me, you can add me on Skype. My ID is right there above the video, live at Travis Pangburn 3. And what else? That's it for now. I will be right back in 1 minute. Stay tuned. Something wrong with my door. Wow, I was actually able to close the door. Woohoo. Okay. I'm just checking out the streams here. I looked like a thief trying to break into a door. Okay. Let's see here. All right, I'm going to take some call-ins now through Skype. Again, if anyone's interested, love to chat with you. We got Tasteless standing by. Tasteless, give me a call as soon as you're ready. So we are just waiting on a call from Tasteless Opinion. Okay. All right, we have Tasteless Opinion. Finally, we've connected. Thanks for calling in.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Travis.
Yes, of course.
Well, first of all, let me tell you, man, it is a great honor to be able to talk to you. And I want to congratulate you for what you did, man. The events you organized, it is just, something epical.
Hey, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. What do you got for today?
Well, listen, man, listening to these conversations between, Peterson and Harris, I know you agree with Sam Harris, but I think they're missing the point in a way. Now, the way I perceive that they're missing the point is the following. And I'm going to ask you one thing, because I kept telling you that Sam Harris disregard the power of belief. Now, do you agree or disagree with that?
Sam disregards the power of belief. I disagree with that statement, and I can qualify that, and I'll say that Sam's version of belief is basically just the neurological response or the idea that we have when we've been convinced that something is true. So basically, what makes the belief meaningful and powerful is the attributes of the belief itself, not the fact that it's actually a belief, because people can believe in useless, terrible things that can do some bad stuff to them psychologically. But some beliefs have an extraordinary amount of power, and I know that's what Sam believes.
Okay, no. But what I mean is that he basically is saying that we should believe the things that have basis, like a philosophical distinction between what we know, that is knowledge, what is justified, and what is true, right?
Yep.
And the belief based on faith. Let's say, for instance, right? He says, no, we shouldn't believe things based on faith, right? We should believe things that are true, right? That is knowledge.
Yeah.
So in that way, he does disregard the beliefs based on faith. Do we agree?
Yes. So beliefs based on faith, but also these aren't absolute rules in the sense of children believing in Santa Claus can be okay. To a certain degree, but of course, once a child gets to a certain age, it will start becoming strange if they believe that a man is actually coming into their house on December 24th, and the parents are okay with it.
Okay, so my question would be the following, right? He says that basically Harris says we don't believe to believe in God. We don't need to believe in this fiction because it is useless, right? It is not true. There is no ways, and it is dangerous, right, to believe in these things.
It can be, yes.
Okay, great. Now, but let me ask you something. In the case that Peterson the case Peterson is trying to bring forward, bring to the table, is the idea that beliefs and these types of beliefs are very powerful and meaningful to people. Therefore, listen, man, it is like saying, take for instance the placebo effect, right? People might be tempted to say, no, I only want to believe things because they are true, and I want to believe things that are true, right? This is what I want to believe. I don't want to believe nonsense. I don't want to believe in fiction. I don't want to believe things that are not real. Okay, that's great. But the problem is that even in sometimes believing in things that are not real have a real effect even on the physical world in a way that we cannot explain, right? Such as the
Can you?
placebo effect.
Yeah. Okay.
So
We can
in the
we can
case of you
explain.
believe in the placebo,
Just one sec.
sure.
We can explain the placebo effect though, right? Because there.
Oh, no, no,
we
no,
can-
no. Of course you can explain it.
Yeah, yeah, but you mentioned something I think you should qualify that there are beliefs can affect reality in a way that we don't quite understand yet. What would you say those things are?
Okay, no. In a way that we don't know, how is it possible that something that doesn't have the qualities and properties to heal you, right, can heal you just by believing? I mean, I know that the belief, unleashes a series of chemical, events that,
Right, that help you
set the table
feel
for your
better
body to
and
get better.
yeah.
Exactly. But the point, and the real point here, is that benefit can only access via believing, right? If you don't believe in it, you're not going to access that benefit.
True.
And that the benefit is real. That benefit is there for you to access it. But
Yeah.
the only way that you can access to it is through belief.
Okay,
right?
now let me
Or
respond.
not.
Let me respond to this. So Sam
Sure,
isn't
sure.
claiming that those beliefs cannot have placebo effects. What he's saying is that the more we move towards truths that have been derived from the evidence of reality through the scientific method, the more we move away from placebo towards the truths, the better we understand reality, and the better we can use the evidence of reality to create new things, like through the scientific method, like new chemical compounds that can be used in medicine, or renewable energy sources, all this beautiful stuff that we get through the scientific method.
I'm going to give you. I'm sorry, Travis. I'm going to give you another example of a particular set of responses that can be only accessed through belief. Let's say, for instance, if you want to portray a framework of the world, a physical framework of the world, a physical understanding of the world, say, no, this chemical in this bio, okay, that's fine. But here is an example, another example of belief. Now, love, right?
Yep.
When you love a person, right? And when you believe that person has some sort of feelings towards you, immediately you get a physical chemical response that feels in a particular way, that has
Sure.
a particular qualia, right?
Yes.
That qualia is unique to that series, or that series of patterns of belief, right? The
Yes.
way you feel when you're in love is unique to that belief.
Sure.
Do we
Yes.
agree?
Yes.
Okay. And the only way to access that is if we actually believe this is the case, right?
Yes.
Even though you can explain it in a physical way or whatever, it loses its all, you cannot access that anymore. Because if your perception is just, oh, no, this love, this is not a real thing. I mean, it's just chemicals acting upon my body, and, I know how it feels and whatnot. But the only way to access that is if you take love as a real thing, as something to believe in, even if there is no, proper way to explain it, or physical way to explain it, scientific way to explain it, right?
So this is the part where I would say we can build a model to demonstrate that love exists.
Oh, yeah.
And we can and I think we can even make that individualistic based on every love situation that comes up. We can build some
Sure.
general rules, but there will be some cases when love is demonstrated between a couple in a strange way, if interpreted by another couple, that shows their love in different ways. And it's a very loose term, hard to define. But if someone's going to make the claim, I believe that my wife loves me, and I would say, where's your evidence that your wife loves you? They can list their evidence and reasons why they believe that, and I can sit there and say, okay, is this reasonable for them to believe, or was the part when they're not, let's say this couple's not in an open relationship, but they've caught them cheating 18 times. I would say, well, maybe they do love you, but are they how deep is the love, or how strong is the love, based on them breaking this strong principle of your relationship so many times? So does that mean that the love would be lessened, or does it just mean that they don't love them in the same way that they would like them to?
Sure. Well, listen, man, I understand that we can explain it, we can give a physical explanation, a physical account to this particular phenomenon, right?
Right.
I agree with that. But the problem is that metaphysically, and that this is the way we engage with that, right? It is in a metaphysical aspect. It is the relationship between, your matter and your sense and your experience in regards to another person in the way you interpret that. So that is just a belief. That is you interpreting the series of events in a particular way that the result of the chemical, responses is going to be felt as love, right? The qualia of those chemical, reactions.
Yes, it's subjective.
So,
yes.
Sure. But that thing can only, and I repeat, can only be accessed if you are open to believe in these kinds of interpretations of metaphysical aspects of reality.
Yeah, so
It is not accessible if you're going to go like a doctor. Oh yeah, no, darling. What you're feeling is that your X chemical is acting upon you, and trying to understand and frame or our understanding of the world through that lens. It is not going to give you the result. This is what I think Jordan Peterson is fighting so hard.
Well, I think Jordan's afraid. Here's what I think. I think Jordan's afraid that the way that Sam Harris can believe in love when it comes to him and his daughters, being someone that claims to not have a religious framework behind what he believes, Jordan would say, well, I don't believe you. I believe you're acting as though God exists. But what Sam is saying is that I value the power of belief in the case of believing that I love my daughters and believing that my wife loves me, and the beliefs that I derive immense amount of pleasures from. When you claim that Sam doesn't value belief, I just look at Sam's examples of, well, I believe that my wife loves me, and the power derived from that belief, the pleasure derived from that belief, I enjoy. Like it's something that I would not want to live without. So I would say that would be a very strong example of Sam valuing and understanding how the power of belief. I'm
not saying he doesn't value, but I'm saying, and I'm not talking about belief as any belief, right? I'm talking specifically about the types of beliefs that Jordan is describing. So let me give you an example, Travis. This is very quick. So in the case of religion, let's say, you cannot deny that people reading the Bible, there is something in the text, there is something in the way that the text is written, right? That in the way the ideas are conveyed, that it has a particular effect in people, man. And it doesn't need, like you're saying, like, oh, give me the justification. I want to see the evidence and whatnot. No, people are affected by this text in ways that maybe scientific text cannot fucking affect people. So here's another example. The community sense.
Can I actually deal with the claim?
Sure.
Let me deal with the Bible claim first. So
sure.
Obviously, that many religious texts had this effect on societies before the Bible came along, right?
Sure.
Okay. So
no. Okay, I agree. So I'm talking about religious.
So the
texts.
claims, the things that seem to matter with these religious texts to give them longevity in human society are the claims that are made about death, sacrifice, the miracles that these gods can perform for them, prayer, all of these things. Like if people, I think people tend to become convinced based on what they can get out of believing in this God or that God over there. And they are, you're right that a lot of people, billions of people in history have been convinced at the truth of these claims, that actually if I do pray at my friend who's suffering from leukemia, if I do go to the hospital and pray for them, that could have some effect that human beings don't understand yet based on the God that I believe in. So yes, people can be convinced by religiosity and dogma and these things, but when people start pointing at stories and saying, well, don't you think it's interesting that this story alone was so powerful to people? Well, I would just say that it was a well-constructed story based on the author's understanding of what people wanted to hear and what they needed. The biggest one being a promise of life after death.
Okay, no, yeah, I think the way you're trying to understand the process in which people become convinced that this is the actual case, I don't think it works like that, man. We have a disagreement. I think that people, for some reason, they read the way these things are declared because it is just declarations, right? They're saying, oh, higher power is this, and you are made in His image and whatnot. This is compelling for people in a way that some stories are compelling to us. When you see a good story, it resonates with you in a way, right? I'm talking about that resonance, not the way that, I believe this to be true, therefore I feel, I have this convictions. No, no, no. They resonate first. They see something there. They make them feel and experience in a way that some other text can't, even with all the evidence that you can make a perfectly good argument, a very supported one, demonstrated and whatnot, and people will see it and say, oh, that's fine, man, right?
Yeah.
But it is not going to have the same impact for some reason,
Yes,
right?
the power of
And this has been
power of stories
right.
and narrative is extreme. And I would say that not only the Bible, not only ancient religious texts have this, but texts like The Night Before Christmas have this power. I don't think it's unique. I don't think it's unique to religious claims.
But here goes the Jordan Peterson argument. The stories that resonates with us are archetypical ones. They are not like, listen, man, and this is true. This is true. Listen, if you have read good stories, the common thing among good stories is that they resonate with people somehow,
Yeah,
right?
they're palatable.
Because they are based usually on real experiences, things that actually happen in people's lives. Now, there is another type of stories of people that are very, creative and imaginative, and they create a series of fucking nonsense. And people see that story, they might enjoy it a little bit, but it is not going to resonate in virtue of it not holding the correct archetype, right? And this is why
well, let me just respond
Peterson,
to that.
I think
let me just respond.
I'm sorry, just let me finish this part.
Okay.
That archetypes are embedded in a way in us in a way that, I don't know, it seems important for our survival. It seems like they are there for a reason, or
Right.
it seems they are there evolutionary. I don't know, man. It just
but let's be clear that religions really haven't. If we look at the evolutionary history of Homo sapiens, Homo habilis, Homo erectus, religiosity in any real sense that we know it now, or the last 3,000 years, has only been around for that long, right? So the fact that it can be written into our evolution, into our like hardwired into our brain evolution, our biological evolution. I don't think there's any evidence of that, although I will say that it has helped social society to unite under common belief systems, regardless of how unfactual they are. But I want to use this example of Samuel Beckett. Samuel Beckett is an absurdist theater playwright, or was, and I get some of my most artistically charged and spiritual-like experiences from experiencing his absurdist plays, because it forces me to think and go into his mind and think of what he was doing and things like this. So that could have been something, that piece of absurdist theater, had it been around at the right time, or that idea had been thought of, perhaps that would have been the thing that these stories were built around, and not the actual story of the sacrificing your son to save the to save humanity from sin, taking all that on his own back, which I think is just a bad. That's just not a constructive way to deal with sinning, if sinning was to be believed, right? I don't really think there is anything special. I know Jordan, and I've spoke to Jordan lots about Cain and Abel, and he's very strong about Cain and Abel. He's about the importance, the human importance of that story, and we will get to that later in in these live streams. But I then point to other stories and other musical experiences and music in general that I think is that strong. Like it's on that level or better. Or an example Sam Harris has used, don't you think Shakespeare, had he been around, 2,000 years ago to write, don't you think he could have come up with a text as potent and as palatable as Cain and Abel?
I don't know, man. Could be.
Yeah. Anyways, thank you so much for calling in. We got to get back to the stream.
Yeah,
but I
Travis,
would
I
love,
appreciate it, man.
Yeah, and I would love for you to call in again. I really appreciate you engaging with everyone.
Yeah, man. Thank you. I appreciate it, man.
Okay.
See ya.
Have a good one. Bye.
Bye.
All right. That was Tasteless. What's his full name again? Tasteless Opinion. Thank you so much for the call. Really appreciate it. You guys hit that like button. Guys over on Facebook, jump over to YouTube with us. That's where all the chat's going down. Is anyone else interested in calling in on Skype? If you are, I'll maybe take a call at the end of the stream if you're going to be sticking around. Let's get those likes up. Thank you guys so much. Keep pounding that like button. It is time to go back to the video. I know you guys chat. Actually, let's go through chat quickly here. Okay, there's some funny ones. Dude, Man Guy says, dude, Pang, you should invest in a piss jug. Well, that's what this is. This is my drinking jug and my piss jug. Big C says, when I said what happened to debates, I meant what happened to long-form tours like the JP and Sam Harris. There will be more tours. They're coming. Different models, but the tours will happen. Different way of approaching, different business model. So, let's see. Tobias Wade says, belief in a common story is something which exists independently of religion. The common belief in democracy, human value, etc., is just as meaningful if it's not about religion. 100% true. This is the power of artistic inspiration. Artistic inspiration can come from music. It can come from story, like religions. It can come from paintings, beautiful architectural structures. So many different art forms can do this for us. Let's see. Okay, this is great. Tobias, diversity of ideas is good because they often conflict. Through the conflict, we realize which are based on false assumptions and which can improve the human race. Yes. Only falsifiable beliefs such as religion hold back the conflict of ideas and prevent progress. Yes, religion is known for. It's got that. Of stifling art forms, of stifling. Yes, religion has taken credit and has created some good processes and forms of art and understanding, but it has also stifled a lot because of the dogmatism. Let's see. Clickbait 321 says, okay, go. Clickbait thumbnail. No Peterson. Jordan Peterson's in the video. Let's see what else we got. I could have swore I saw did Zyben 64. Are you anti or pro free will? That's a weird question. Let's see. I thought I saw something. No Name says, I think I've agreed with everything the host said. Who is this? My name is Travis Pangburn. Go over to the Pangburn YouTube page to learn more about what we do. You guys follow us on Facebook. That's where all the big conversations go down. At Pangburn Inspire on Facebook, Pangburn Inspire, and follow me on Twitter, at the Pangburn on Twitter. That's where all the crazy loony stuff happens. Awesome. These are great conversations you guys are having. Also, for those interested, Man Guy, some of those who seem to be solid skeptics, a few of you, where was the other one? Tobias, you guys, and everyone who's interested. I am creating a Skeptic Coalition, which is basically, it's a very small, tight group of people who are going to be involved in a private group on Facebook, and it's basically based around doing achieving skeptic-driven goals, and having a group of skeptics that can take on problems and things that are very much lacking the skeptic community's voice. So it's kind of like a tight, closed focus group. So if you're interested in applying for that, just go to @Pangburn Inspire, our main Pangburn page on Facebook, and we got a great group so far. I'm really excited about it. We haven't even started work yet. So there's a little test that you need to pass. It's just basically a response to a claim, and then you give a 1-paragraph response. So if you're interested in being considered, and if you don't have Facebook regularly, if you're not on Facebook, just make a quick account and come on for that purpose only. It doesn't even have to be your name necessarily. Okay, let's get back to the video. We'll do one more stretch here. We won't finish this whole video today, but we've taken a good chunk out of it. We'll do one more episode on this video. This isn't, No Name says, this isn't Skepticism Plus, is it? What is that? I don't know what that is, No Name. And what's your real name? Yeah, if you don't social media, just make a damn fake account or whatever, and we can sort it out, and just come and join the Pangburn page on Facebook and send us a message through Facebook. Okay, let's keep going. And if you are over on Facebook right now, jump over to YouTube. Join in the conversation. All right.
And you are arguing in response that...
Not without an intermediary structure.
Let me just argue in response.
Hold on a second.
Not without an intermediary structure.
What I've heard you argue is something that I agree with, which is that you can ground many things in a nearly...
I should have grabbed the voice of God mic backstage, and I should have been like, he's talking about the pleasure drive.
Objective observation of the universe, but it doesn't,
because that's what Jordan's asking Sam to deal with.
And in fact, I
the instinct.
thought about the question from an evolutionary point of view, that in order to do what you're talking about, to increase well-being, you are going to have to accept that is going to leave you with an arbitrary grounding. There is no absolute grounding for it.
No Name. Atheism is just a byproduct of skepticism, applying skepticism properly. So if someone claims that gods exist, or this God exists, and you say, oh, that's quite the claim, let's see your evidence, and someone doesn't supply anything, no evidence, just like books and writings and stuff, then you just say, well, I don't believe you. That's the atheist position, that I don't believe your claim. There's nothing else to it but that. So skepticism is just a byproduct of atheism is a byproduct of skeptical inquiry to the claim that gods or a god exist.
You're going to have to just simply accept that it's going to make you arbitrary, that you are in fact going to have to do inconsistent things, like decide to honor the love of a mother for her child and dishonor the love of country that causes one population to gas another population. That's inconsistent, and we need to embrace that kind of inconsistency.
I mean, it's just a different... I don't think that we even have the grounding problem. I think it's a pseudo problem. I think
But you just said you needed to put your stuff in somewhere.
We have a navigation. So the way it's grounded is the acknowledgement that what we have is, I mean, it's analogous to what people do with the notion of meaning in life. Like, what's the meaning of life? How do you find meaning in life? Or what's the purpose of life?
Okay, guys, let's hear your answer to what the meaning of life is. This is a question I love answering because it's right up my pleasure alley. The meaning to life is pleasure in the sense of the pleasure drive. It's pleasure. That's the meaning of life. When I try to put together that equation, that's the answer I come out with based on my understanding of life itself from a biological aspect. My hair's all over the place. But let's hear you guys' let's hear your guys' answers to that question. I think it's interesting, and try to keep it. Try to simplify it. Keep it simple. Again, if anyone's interested, we're gonna play for another maybe 5 minutes the video for today, and then I'll take another Skype call if anyone's interested in jumping on Skype. And if not, I'll go through the chat a little more. Then we'll end it there. But again, thank you guys so much for engaging. This is awesome.
These are bad questions. These are questions that, when you pose them, they seem to they suggest a space in which an answer must be put, but it's just.
But you put an answer there. You said that people should work towards the good.
Yes, there's a different way of framing it, which is what we have here is an opportunity. It's not a matter of meaning. It's not a matter of purpose, and it's not a matter of grounding. It's a matter of we are in a circumstance where we have consciousness and its contents in every moment. And all of this is, the lights are on, and they're on for reasons that we dimly understand, right? They're reasons that are biological in our case, but perhaps at bottom they're just based on information processing, and that they're platform independent. And then we would build machines for whom the light is actually on, or not, right? It remains to be seen whether we can actually build in our computers conscious minds that can thrive or suffer, right? And that the difference matters. But we're in this circumstance where we are trying to understand how consciousness and its states arises. But one thing that is undeniable is that the lights are on, and being on, they reveal.
So Sam just made the claim the lights are on. I would say, again, going with my pleasure drive proposition, some lights are on depending on our pleasure drive, or some lights are on is even a better claim. I would argue.
A spectrum of experience that which has one end that the worse it gets, the more compelling it is to move away from it.
No name. No, we don't define our own pleasures. These things are based on the potential pleasures that are available to us. This is why environment matters when it comes to the pleasure drive. We don't have the power to just define them ourselves. As if you were here earlier, I'm not sure if you were, neuroscience has shown us that thoughts happen to us based on information that's taken in from our nervous system. So if thoughts happen to us, that means everything we think, including ideas or things we define, anything, is coming from a place that we are not in control of in like the most basic sense, where our sense of control is actually, our sense of free will is a false sense. Free will hasn't been demonstrated to actually exist.
That's meaning right
yes,
there.
Okay, so and all of our meaning talk and value talk relates to navigating in this space. So there's one end of it where things get needlessly horrible without a silver lining, and there's another end where it gets better and better and non-zero sum, and all boats are rising with the same tide, and the Israelis and the Palestinians.
That's the landscape of evil and good.
Yeah.
So
okay. So
what do you-
fine.
what do you do-
That's why. So these are compelling ways to talk about this space of navigation.
What do you do when you accept your space of navigation and there's a conflict between well-being for the living population of Earth versus well-being over the maximum populations that could possibly live into the future? When there's a big conflict between how much well-being we are going to feel now versus how much well-being future human beings will get to feel.
Yeah. Well, those are legitimate ethical problems, which I think we often live in the space where we know there's a right answer that we are too selfish to fulfill or too short-sighted to fulfill. Like, so I know there are things I do every day that not.
Yeah, that's a very good point by Sam, that our pleasure drive is 100% selfish, and in the sense of I just had to approve. YouTube sometimes blocks comments in a way, and I don't know why. Let's see. I forget what I was saying. I just read something. Let's see here. Zeben says, all this anti-free will talk is going to filter out the guys you need in your life, Travis. What? What does that mean? How would that filter out anyone? Yeah, using love as an example is just, it's very elementary. We can build a model to demonstrate love and understand love, a scientific model, even though the evidence input is a very subjective view of what that certain version of love is. It's a very different model than just a model that's going to demonstrate a yes or no. Well, it is demonstrating a yes or no answer, but the inputs are going to be a lot more subjective. You know what? Let's pause the video there. I want to hear your guys' meaning of life. Meaning of life answers here. Let's see. That was okay. Andrew Thopil says, the meaning of life is whatever you want the meaning of life to be. Okay, problem with that. The meaning of life is whatever you want. I guess if you're using want in the general sense of whatever our pleasure drive, whatever the pleasure drive thinks is the epitome of pleasure for us that we are moving towards, which obviously can malfunction in psychopathy and other brain disorders. Psychopathy being a good example, because psychopaths, they have this hunger. The pleasure drive is pushing them towards seething and figuring out ways to be very destructive from a moral standpoint. But that's what their pleasure drive is dictating. So if you're using want in the sense of, I guess, whatever our biology comes up with what we want, then I guess we would probably agree on the pleasure drive being that dictator of that. Zeben64 says the meaning of life is to be creative, like the creativity a cell undergoes upon evolution. The meaning of life is to be creative. Well, I would disagree. I would say the meaning of life will only be creative as long as your pleasure drive finds it pleasurable to pursue this. And so we have many people that may not be living in a creative way like you would describe, and it does have to do with how you define being creative, but creative means creating things, I guess. So people who aren't creating things, and maybe you would argue that everyone is creating something with everything they do, so maybe, but the thing is that some people's pleasure drives points them, the epitome of pleasure becomes death, and we have suicide. So I don't think your answer here works, because for some, if you were to ask them as they are pursuing the epitome of pleasure, which is suicide, if you ask them in that moment before, they would say, what is the meaning? When you ask them what is the meaning of life, their answer would be death. And whereas when I propose that the meaning of life is the pleasure drive, that answer would still suffice for the person who's about to commit suicide, because their meaning is to die in that moment. No Name says I can get with that. Cameron Gilman says, at Pangburn sounds like hedonism to me. Okay, however you want to define what I'm saying, if it falls under that category or if it's something similar, then however you want to label it. John Doe says, the meaning of life is to worship and give glory to God. Which God? Zeus? Which one? Andrew Thopil says, is that not what... he's responding to Cameron Gilman. Is that... No, about the hedonism claim. Is that not what the drive to survive is? Yeah, I mean, the drive to survive is basically... Except the drive to survive, not all, like in the suicide circumstance, not all pleasure drives point us towards survival. It just doesn't work out that way. And this has to do with environmental circumstances. You're born into absolute poverty. You're suffering of starvation and dying, and you feel like you're dying all the time. To end the suffering becomes the epitome of pleasure. Zabin64 says, free will denying hedonists. Well, it's not denial. The burden of proof is on you, Zabin. Demonstrate that free will exists. Andrew Thopil, I guess, tries again, or comes with another point. The meaning of life is to create meaning in life. Well, I think that's too complicated, because there are many arguments to be made that we can look at certain human beings on this planet and by not irregardless of what they say their meaning of life is, if we look at the evidence of their life, we can see that the meaning of their life is not to create meaning in life. It is to pursue other things. Like even the idea of creating meaning for yourself is just a non-starter, because we don't do that. Or this is a process that's happening to us. And everyone doesn't define their own pleasures. This is hardware interacting with the environment. That's what dictates what pleasures can be derived. And Taylor Zimmerman says, intrinsically there is no meaning to life, of course, but with modern society, I agree with you. Pleasure has evolved to be the meaning to life. Yeah, I think that's a great answer, Taylor. Let's see what else we got here. Yes, definitely. Cameron Gilman says the dopaminergic. I have a hard time pronouncing that one. Dopaminergic system is an important part of human psychology, but I wouldn't put it at the forefront of human meaning. Yes, dopamine, the dopamine response, the chemical, would not be. There's something triggering that, right? Something is triggering that. Let's see what else we got here. Actually, you just do what you do. That's not really... you just do what you do. That's more of an observation of what each person does, not meaning. And obviously, when we're looking for intrinsic meaning as far as like a subjective idea of what meaning is, you're going to fall apart because those thoughts are happening to us, remember, based on environment. And environment includes like the people around you, your parents, everything around you that you experience, that come into contact with. Yes, Road Camelot is correct that life is physics. Okay, so we are at about 2 hours and 4 minutes. Please, you guys, like this live stream, share it, all that jazz. Subscribe, hit the notification bell. We're going to cut it there. I'll leave this stream open so you guys can keep commenting for a bit here. But I really enjoyed the conversations today. I think you guys have done such a good job. Go over to Facebook at Pangburn Inspire. Join us there for the conversations. Just find Pangburn on Facebook. You'll find the page. We have interesting conversations every day. Come and engage. If you and go head over to Twitter right now and follow me on Twitter. Be glad to have you on there. Twitter is a cesspool of bullshit nonsense that we need more skeptics and more good thinkers on. It is a cesspool of crap. And this is why I've created terms that are appropriate for a cesspool of crap platform like fuckweasel. And I've explained this to many of you, that fuckweasel is a term I created that's basically people who just spread defamatory bullshit and lies. And it doesn't matter who it's about. I like to find people and label them that, so as to give them a little smack when they're doing that. And actually I've seen the evidence of this working, and people coming back and being like, yeah, you know what? I made this comment without evidence, and I'm sorry about that. And then I unblock them and everything's fine. But there are people, and someone's saying twat. I see the word twat. Squirrel. Tesla says I should open a Discord server. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see. Potentially, it is a good idea. We got lots on the go right now, and it's not a lot of work to get going. But maybe one of our new Oompa Loompas who's helping out, who will remain nameless. Sorry, I just saw a comment. They'll maybe get us going on Discord. What else? Oh, if any of you guys can afford to support us on Patreon, go to patreon.com/Pangburn. Just $1 per creation helps us out a lot. Just having new patrons on there is great. So if you're into that, come over there. There's going to be new access and different interesting things that are offered to patrons that you can't get anywhere else. We're going to be doing our t-shirts again, and I got and book giveaways, of course. We always do the book giveaway model, and that seems to be popular. But all that money on Patreon goes towards translating all of our long-form discussions featuring world-famous intellectuals into Arabic and Spanish. And if you're interested in getting involved with Pangburn, send us a message through Facebook. And Andrew Thopil says, Travis, are you going to be hosting any debates? Of course I am. I've been away for a while, dealing with many things, many life things, shooting documentaries. But I've been focusing on documentaries for a while, and but I am back. I'm in the mix of it right now. Pangburn's back, and I will be everywhere, forcing the world to become more skeptical. But thank you guys so much. Thank you for engaging. Tasteless opinion, I really appreciate you calling in. I really want to have more conversations like people like Tasteless. I really thought it was a great conversation. But keep having conversations. I really appreciate it. Make sure you follow us and like this video, like this live stream. We will post on our Facebook page and everywhere when the next live stream will happen, likely in a couple days. Hope to see you guys there. But everyone, just let art and science inspire. And thank you very much.